What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Jeremy coming to you with another video, and today we have got a very interesting topic to discuss. I am joined by former Jacksonville Jaguars offensive lineman and brand new teammate to Geeks and Gamers, Uche Nwaneri. What's up, Uche?
What's going on, Geeks and Gamers? Yeah, we've got something interesting for you tonight.
Yeah, man. I told you, man. Welcome to Geeks and Gamers, man.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Being a famous NFL football player, and I'm bringing you into stuff you've never dealt with before.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so a few days ago, Uche and I just had a spur-of-the-moment discussion. We had a little discussion. We were having actually a team meeting behind the scenes, and then I said, hey, can I just hit record and me and you talk about DC and Marvel? And we just did it. We hit record, and we just had a spur-of-the-moment discussion. It did very well on the channel. Everyone was happy with the discussion. Uche, you are from Africa. So you actually, your family is from Africa. Your parents are African. And you had an interesting take that a lot of people don't have. Anybody that I know didn't have on the movie Black Panther. Yeah, so basically what has happened is you shared some thoughts from your perspective on Black Panther in the middle of our big discussion. Mm-hmm. And now we both received, well, I received an email and you received a private message on Facebook by the same person that sent me the email. Yeah. And I just want to say, with all due respect to the person that sent me the email, and I say with all due respect because the gentleman seems well-intentioned, but he made a crucial mistake within this email, a very crucial mistake. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to show everybody the email. I'm going to read the email. And I'm going to blurt out this person's name because to this person's credit, gave me their birth name and the name they go by. They gave me their phone number. They gave me all of their information, and I want to handle that with the greatest amount.
Handle it with respect. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And so I'm going to do that. But we are going to read through it. I'm going to blurt out what needs to be blurred out, and we're going to go ahead and talk about it. So here is the email. Uche Nwaneri interview Geeks and Gamers. That's the title. Hi, my name is, I'm not going to tell you that. I'm not going to tell you his YouTube name either. I'm a subscriber to your channel on YouTube, and I'm an avid watcher of your posts there. In fact, I watch them like breaking news with CNN. In fact, it was you who helped me understand that the new Star Wars was a mess, and why. I think your activism in the true, he's got some spelling errors, in the true Star Wars and comic book community has been instrumental in making Disney make radical steps to make up to a broken fan base. I'm a 36-year two-medium journalist to the Black press. I'm also a 22-year Bible teaching minister. I'm lastly a Black community activist of 26 years. I've been a comic book movie geek and a sci-fi geek since I was little. It's always been an escape from the rigors of a world full of cultural hatred towards my people. I love and respect righteousness in all people. I'm writing today to alert you that in your interview on Geeks and Gamers show 2 days ago, Mr. Uche Nwaneri took some missteps in his verbal assessment of the African continental consciousness of my people here in the United States. He's young and perhaps unaware of our historical and present struggles as people since we were brought here to this land in chains and our Native American brothers lost land now known as the United States. Of America due to European conquest. You did a great job explaining your position on SJW's version of diversity and real world views coming from a white male. I applaud you for that. However, Mr. Nwaneri put his foot in his mouth and offended me and many like me, the pan-Afro-culturally enlightened. I stated my anger in the comments section of your posting. I also inboxed Mr. Nwaneri on Facebook, and he gives his birth name. I'm not going to share that. Now, here's where the problem is. The next line is where the big problem is. Watch my channel. If you watch my channel and you think that this is going to fly, this is where you are sorely mistaken, because this is where it becomes a public issue, and I'm going to make it a public issue. You didn't have to put this part in here. You could have shared your displeasure, and I, as the owner of Geeks and Gamers, would have taken that with all respect, because my job is to not make a judgment on what someone that says they're a fan of my channel says, as much as I have to take that into account how I run my business. Now, it wouldn't have made any difference because I was on there with Uche, and Uche did nothing wrong. But this is the mistake right here. I'd like to know if you'd please consider having Mr. Waneri air a retraction apology for his statements regarding our soul cultural awakening to African continental consciousness coming via watching the Black Panther movie and not caring anything about Africa before it. It would be a blessing if you can inspire him to do so. If not, this is it. If not, we are prepared to make this a major issue in our communities, both here and in the States and internationally. I'm not sure you should potentially have this type of negative publicity. I don't want it, as your focus should remain on entertainment-based activism. I do want to be clear. It is a dire public relations issue and should be addressed quickly addressed. Both you and Mr. Waneri are public figures and have a major responsibility to be sensitive to your viewing audiences. I'm prayerful you'll take my letter seriously to heart and take swift immediate action at the lowest boiling point as not to cause further hurt. I will not apologize. I will not apologize. I will not ask Uche to apologize. And how dare you ask me, a white man, to tell a black man to apologize for his life experiences? How dare you? Now, again, if this would have been an email to just give me some concerns as a viewer of my channel, say, hey, here's my concern. Here's what I didn't like. That's fine. I have no problem with that. I like feedback. But you threatened me.
Yeah, directly threatened.
Threatened Uche. You threatened my brand. And then you acted like I would be worried about negative publicity. Mofo, I live in negative publicity. Okay? So
we was born in it, molded by it.
I didn't see 100,000 subscribers until I was already a man. All right. Uche, okay, what do you think on this?
Couple of quick couple of points I want to make. You know, first, okay. So in this line, he says, after asking for an apology, he says, for his statements regarding our soul cultural awakening to African continental consciousness coming via watching the Black Panther movie. Okay, first off, to me, that is bullshit. One, you're telling me Roots wasn't your soul cultural awakening to African consciousness? You're telling me that movies like, what was the one with the African guy of Gladiator? What was that movie? Where they were like, give us free, give us free. You remember the, I forget it. We'll have to look it up. But there have been plenty of movies that have centered around the historical facts of how Africans got to America through slave trade that have far more, that have a far better connective tissue to the social or to the cultural, the separation of Africans from their actual culture in order to break them into.
Hell, I learned more from Tupac's music than I did Black Panther about the
African
struggle. I'm not saying Tupac was African, but Tupac was very smart and very intelligent, did a lot of research and talked about a lot of that in his music. Now, a lot of people will just hear the
mainstream hip hop songs.
Yeah, but Tupac had a lot of deep philosophical stuff about the African struggle in his music. So I learned more from that than Black Panther.
Yeah. You know? There's many different norms or many more forms of media that you can look at and latch onto to say, hey, this really allows me to have an intelligent, deep conversation about the connection between Africa and the slaves that were, traded over, and just the plight of the black man in America, dating far back, before any of us were alive, Mm-hmm. So you pick Black Panther as the hill you want to die on. Black Panther is a fictional story about people who don't exist in a country that doesn't exist. And that's what you want to point at and say, hey, Jeremy, instead of coming to your black brother, quote unquote, and bringing that to my attention, you go to Jeremy and you tell Jeremy, you go to the man and let's have the man, handle this guy. I'm not going to address him directly, but the fact of the matter is this: there is a distinct divide between Africans and blacks for a number of different reasons. My parents came to this country with nothing. My dad was 23, my mom was 21. They came here with the aspirations of getting an education and being able to live the American dream, which they have done successfully since 1973 when they first came here. And a lot of things that I learned when I was young from my parents about how black people view Africans really created a picture. It painted a picture of Africans as people who come to this country to work their ass off to live a better life. And in the process of doing that, they deal with more than white folks. They deal with black people who see them and, basically hate on the fact that Africans come here and they put aside all the distractions and they come here to work. My mom was a parole officer for 15 years, and she steady worked her way up the chain, up the ladder in her parole office division, because she worked hard and she did things the right way. And she received hate from her black coworkers almost daily. They didn't like talking to my mom. They didn't like the fact that my mom had an accent. They treated her as if she was a lesser individual because she wasn't black. She was an African. My dad, the same way, working odd jobs to take care of his family, dealing with black people who hated on him because he was getting promotions at Church's Chicken, because he was getting promotions at Dillard's department store, because he was able to lift himself up to a point where he opened up his own business in 1994, and that business is thriving still to this very day. And the same thing with their children who are all kids with African names. We don't have American names. That's something that some Nigerians give their kids two names. They give them an African name and they give them an English name, because obviously if you have an African name, it's a little bit harder for people who are American to pronounce and to deal with those. And for me as a kid, I was bullied a lot because of my name. And this was by black kids. This was not by white kids. This was by black kids who saw my name and couldn't pronounce it, and saw that and learned I was African, and started calling me African booty scratcher, started calling me African BB head, and in a way isolated me from even wanting to experience or even wanting to integrate myself with black culture, because black culture in a way rejected me at that point when I was young. So I latched on to the other people who were around me, to Asians, to whites, to Indians, and just became someone who could basically blend in with a number of different cultures, just because, Nigerians by nature, once a Nigerian person sees you as a friend, then that's it. You're their friend for life. And they always keep open arms to people who they don't know, and always kind of try to welcome in people into their circle, because we don't necessarily view things from the perspective of race. That's just not something that we've ever really we've never really seen that as something that is a viable way of determining how good someone may be, right? Mm-hmm. So growing up, I was able to, kind of gain these friendships with a lot of these people from different cultures. But up until my adulthood, it was always a little bit of contention. There was always a little bit of tension and a little bit of a contentious nature around, black people who really don't have that experience of being around different cultures, of being around the African culture. And even in, across the board, from not just being a kid as a new student in elementary school with these black kids who, make fun of my name, but you look at it in the media, you look at it in movies, you look at it in, comedy. There is always a little bit of a disconnect between blacks and Africans. Look at a movie like Coming to America. Coming to America is kind of a spoof on that, that black people will look at Africans and be like, whoa, you African, whoa, what y'all chasing lions out there? What's going on? Like, You know how many times I've been asked if there were lions in Nigeria? To me, that is utter ridiculousness. If you know anything about Africa, then you know that you're not going to find any wild animals running around in anything that is not sub-Saharan Africa. And Nigeria is Ivory Coast. Nigeria is the west coast of Africa, where coincidentally, Nigeria was a huge partner in the slave trade, because back in those times, Nigeria, the warring African tribes, this is how it worked back, hundreds of years ago. Warring African tribes, if you went to war with a tribe and you won, you enslaved the people that you defeated. You enslaved them. You sold them as livestock almost.
Wow.
It was just part of the culture of the strongest survive. So if you had, like, you look at like the Zulu tribe. The Zulu tribe was actually one of the largest tribes that roamed the sub-Saharan African plains. And the Zulu tribe, when they won wars, that entire tribe, if they won that battle, that entire tribe was enslaved, and they would sell those slaves off to other African tribes, and those African tribes would sell those slaves off to other African tribes. So the Ivory Coast of Africa, where a lot of British colonial missions came through and did trade with the African tribes that were in Nigeria. Nigeria was considered a massive hub for slave trade, because it was basically a port nation. We were right on the coast, and it was right, and there was a lot of intertribal trade that went on in that area. So there's a history of Nigerians being involved heavily in the slave trade, to the detriment of the people that we see now as Black Americans. That is history. These are the facts. I don't sit there and say, oh, well, of course, that's something that was wrong. It was the way it was. It was trade. As we evolve as human beings, the perception of how people should be treated does change over time. But in those times, that was the norm. And again, you're talking about a civilization, a human civilization, at a point of time where, these things were based on power. If you were the tribe in power, then you did things the way you wanted it to be done. And if you fast forward to today, slavery hasn't really gone anywhere. It's just evolved into a different. It's just evolved from visually from chains and whips to other things like car notes, like mortgages, like 9-to-5s to a certain extent. So it's not necessarily the brutality of it is gone for the most part, but the world as a whole hasn't changed a whole lot in the way that it operates. The strongest still are the ones that manage to control the masses when it comes to social matters and stuff like that. But just to get back to exactly what we're talking about with this guy, he is using Black Panther as his soapbox to try and threaten geeks and gamers into conforming to whatever kind of twisted perspective he has on how Black consciousness should be viewed and should be perceived by us as individuals. And that, to me, is completely out of line. And I could give two shits about apologizing, because there's nothing to apologize about. It's my opinion. I can have it if I want. And It's my opinion that I built through life experiences. And there's a lot of others just like me who've had the same experiences. So, I mean, this guy, I mean, look, respectfully, I get where I understand that you're trying to make a point. You're trying to look for some kind of reprieve from us, but this ain't the hill you want to die on, dude. Black Panther? Man, fuck Black Panther. As far as I'm concerned, I don't care. It ain't African. And I'm an African, so I think I have the right to say it. That shit ain't African. That is Hollywood bullshit. If anything, and no offense, that's some white Hollywood bullshit, because that ain't shit that a real African filmmaker would look at and be like, this is how I want Africa to be represented. Because there ain't nothing in Black Panther that shows real African representation. The colonizer. Well, what happened? That black advisor to the king betrayed him to the colonizers. So what the hell is the difference between that and what goes on today with Black folks killing Black folks, or Black folks snitching, stuff like that? All the same. So to me, he needs to get off that, because that shit is just completely out of. It's just ridiculous for him to even look at it and think that that movie has enough importance to warrant that kind of response from him.
I had no idea that you were going to be on this one when we met. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, holy crap, man, Uche is killing it now. Like,
no, dude, because it's real, dude. Like I'm as an African,
yeah,
you know, I feel that, because we dealt with that. I dealt with that when I was young, dude. I got jumped by a black and a white dude every day when I was from second grade to third grade, every day, until I decided to stand up and whoop these boys' asses. A black dude and a white dude jumped me, and the black dude jumped me more because I was an African than anything. So I'm like, dude, I'm not playing that. To me, to us Africans, I'm like, Black Panther is pandering to a black community that doesn't have a cultural origin. That's because of the separation that was made at that point of entry into this country through slavery. And that is unfortunate. That is a very tragic and destructive thing. There's no doubt about it. But don't use Black Panther as a way to reconnect to us, because it ain't real. It's not real, literally.
Beautiful.
That's all I got to say about it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, what it comes down to is this, I will never, ever, 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 ever force one of my teammates to apologize for any opinion given. I will make sure I clarify, saying if a crucial, over the line mistake is made, and we have had that happen once. I'm not going to talk about it publicly, and I've never talked about it publicly. I have those conversations with my people private, and I give them the option to do what they want. But I will never force anyone to apologize that they don't feel that they were wrong for. And asking me to apologize is a fundamental misunderstanding of me, the brand I've created, and anybody on my team. Geeks and Gamers, and I'm uploading a video about this later on tonight, maybe tomorrow. Geeks and Gamers as a brand does not have an opinion.
Yeah.
It's
totally neutral.
Right. It doesn't care about Kathleen Kennedy. It's not pro-Kathleen Kennedy. It's not anti-Kathleen Kennedy. It's not pro-Brie Larson. It's not anti. It doesn't love Star Wars. It doesn't hate Star Wars. It doesn't hate Trump. It doesn't love Trump. It doesn't hate Bernie. It doesn't love Bernie. It has no opinion. It is the brand, and it represents the individuals within the brand. And the individuals within the brand can have any opinion they want. And I will never sit there and go, you can't have that opinion because it reflects terribly on Geeks and Gamers. No, that's exactly what it needs to be. You need to have your strong opinions. You need to be able to feel comfortable in those opinions. And I will never come to someone on my team and go, oh, you had a tweet back in 2012, and it's offensive, and I'm going to have to fire you for that. That will never happen here. So I do. Part of me does feel bad for kind of coming at this guy a little bit, but his crucial mistake was
acting like we owed him an apology. And trying to threaten us about that.
Threatening. You'll make this an international issue.
International. You think they care about black? Come on.
Like I'm worried about bad publicity. No, I'm asking you, I'm begging you to make it as big of an issue as you want, because you will never get an apology from me. And the only way Uche or anybody on my team would ever apologize is if they, as an individual, felt they needed to apologize, not because of me. Not because I'm going, you have to apologize. No, they have to come to that conclusion on their own. I can't force someone I can't force someone to be sorry for something. And why would I ask somebody to bullshit an apology to the public? That's not what we do.
Yeah, and I'm not sorry. I mean, and again, dude, like I said, I don't want to come off disrespectful to this guy, but there is a bit of disrespect in him thinking that he can place himself as a holier than thou kind of person and try to think that he can push an agenda onto us, an agenda onto me that only serves to benefit him and to benefit his perspective. Because at the end of the day, that doesn't change the fact that everything that he's talking about does not change the fact that he has chosen to battle over something that is fully fictional. He did not reference one historical reference about the significance of the disconnect culturally of black people from the time they were brought to America by slavery. He didn't bring us any information about what he knows about the cultural significance that anything real, anything tangible in Black society can latch onto with African culture. I mean, like I said, roots. If you're going to talk, if it was me sitting here talking bad about roots and talking about how that saga, that historically classic saga of the arrival of African slaves in this country and one family's evolution through the generations of dealing with abuse, dealing with the cultural destruction of their ancestor or of Kunta Kinte and all of his family that followed him, then there would be a point there where I would say, you know what, this guy is right, because that is actually a story that's based in reality, that's based on historical facts, and it does present a significant importance to the Black culture of today, and looking back and seeing where the roots of some slave families did actually resist the oppression of their slave owners and try to hold on to their African culture that they had before they were brought to the United States. We're talking about Black fucking Panther, a comic book character who was made up by a white guy. A white guy made Black Panther.
Yep.
And that's what you want to come to me about? Fuck out of here, dude. That to me is offensive and disrespectful. Because you're not even you're picking a fictional character that was made by a white person who basically imagined and made up all these different character tropes for what he thought would be an advanced African society. So to me, it's nonsense. And I won't apologize, and I know damn well it ain't never coming out of you. But I mean, when you brought this to me, dude, I literally was shocked, because to me, I was like, we had a conversation about, our perspectives on the DCEU and the MCU, but I mean, and we really only talked about Black Panther for maybe 30 or 40, maybe a minute or two at the most, and then it wasn't really, and it was more in jest. There was some. Well, I'm not going to say in jest, because I was being real about that. I didn't like the movie. I didn't think the movie represented Africans in any way. But at the same time, it wasn't anything that we were thinking would blow up into and have this kind of backlash from somebody who claims to be a sophisticated intellectual on the subject matter of Black consciousness. Like, dude, if you are an expert on that, then you know damn well that Black Panther ain't where you want to go with it, because that is the least. That provides the least amount of context into real Black consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because they're constantly throwing different narratives at Geeks and Gamers and me, and now here we have a successful famous NFL player on the team. You're not a white dude, and you don't really follow all of the points that they've accused me of what I am. So now it's like changing the goalpost, moving the goalpost, change the rules,
moving it over for me.
And now we're going to go after him because Jeremy has proven us wrong again. I've been proving you wrong for 2 years. At some point, you're either just going to have to give up or keep making me more successful. I'm good either way. But Geeks and Gamers is not going to apologize ever to the mob. Now, I have made apologies before, just when I felt I was wrong and I felt that I needed to make an apology based on an error I made. But I will never, ever apologize to the mob or to a threat. If this would have been a respectful email, I would have taken it much more seriously. Uche and I would have had a private discussion that nobody else would have ever heard, and I just would have been like, "Hey, make me understand how you feel about this, because I can't pretend to know your story or how you come at that, and I can't pretend to know this gentleman's story. So can you make me understand his perspective and your perspective?"
Yeah,
and I would
perfectly understandable.
Yeah, and I would have been more educated on this situation. But you threatened us. Yeah. And that was your crucial mistake, and it won't happen.
Which means he's trying to garner attention from this. He's trying to garner some media sympathy from this shit. Like, and again, dude, I get it. I get that he looks at this and he's probably thinking, oh, look, this black guy's over here, talking bad about a movie that, caused, or this African is talking bad about a movie that caused a lot of black folks to go around wearing dashikis, thinking that they're African. I mean, okay, cool, but that shit's not real. So get that out of your head. There's no rite of passage for any prince or king in Nigeria by snorting flower powder and fighting on a waterfall. That shit is a trope, an African trope in and of itself. That's offensive. So shit, what are you talking about, dude?
We're going to wrap it up at that point. So I think the lesson here is that don't threaten Geeks and Gamers. Don't threaten anybody at Geeks and Gamers, because we're only going to use it to our advantage. And it's just we're not just like everybody else. We're not scared of negative attention. We're not scared of people trying to blow things out of proportion. We're not worried about it. We're just not. And we're built for this, and we're built for the next level. We're going to the next level, and nobody is going to stop us, and all you can do is help us, and that's all this has done, has helped us. So Uche, I thank you for coming on with me. It's been a pleasure having you.
No problem.
Been a pleasure having you. I know. Look, for all of your faults as you being a DC EU fanboy, you got a few good points. No, man, but yeah, you're gonna see more of Uche here. I'm gonna leave a link in the description below to his YouTube channel, The Observant Lineman. Congratulations on 1,000 subs, my friend.
Hey, appreciate it, man. Thank you to Geeks and Gamers, man. I appreciate the love from the Geeks and Gamers audience. They've really been real supportive of my channel as well. So thanks a lot for that, and definitely looking forward to the future.
Yeah, man, we got a bright future ahead of us. So for Uche, I've been Jeremy. Thank you for checking out this video. Subscribe to the channel if you have not, and we will see you later.
Peace.
Hey everyone, it's Jeremy from geeksandgamers.com, and if you're a fan of Geeks and Gamers, please go to our website, visit our merchandise store. We have t-shirts, hoodies, hats, beanies, tank tops, and in the very near future, we're going to have many more products for you to choose from. So thank you for the support. We appreciate it. You guys have a great day, and we will talk to you later.